Hi, I'm Dave Mars with Conservation Tips. Today we're going to discuss one of our favorite appliances, the refrigerator. Now this icebox refrigerator has been in our kitchens the last 70 or 80 years and it's virtually kind of unchanged. We got an insulated box with equipment down below that pull that heat out and deliver the cooling inside. So let's see how we can tune it up and make it more efficient. Now very often refrigerators are stuck back into cubbies, with cabinets around them, etc. And that also kind of helps hold the heat in around it. And of course, to further hold the heat around it, it turns out the top of the refrigerator tends to be a magnet for every cereal box and chip bag in the whole household. So try to find an alternative spot to put them so the heat can dissipate around the top. And then of course, this slot next to the refrigerator is a very convenient storage spot for bags and what have you. But let's see if we can find an alternative spot for those too. Now once you've cleaned the obstructions around the unit as best you can, it's time to check your gaskets. The idea is that once we get cold air in here, we want to keep it in here, and the gasket's the way to do it. Now you can kind of visually inspect your gaskets, see if there's any over time might have puckered in a corner or something like that. You can feel the cold air coming out. Or you can take a piece of paper like this and close it on the paper and see if you got a nice little tug on that. And that feels pretty good. Over time, they might get a little bit weaker, so you might want to get the model number off the refrigerator and call the dealer. Maybe they can order you a new gasket to replace the old one with. Now, basically, the way refrigerator works, they will have some cooling equipment, similar to find your air conditioner in your home, and it's located generally in the bottom of the unit. It sends its cold freon up here to the very freezer that we're talking about, because this is where you want it the coldest. You want it around 0 to 5 degrees above. The way this thing works is that the cold goes into here and keeps your food frozen, but there are ports in the freezer that enable the cold air to fall into the box. So it's important not to overload your freezer. You want to keep about 80% full and look and see where these ports are inside to make sure, one, that they haven't gotten plugged up with old food or ice or what have you from previous people who might have owned the refrigerator or used it, and try to remove any obstruction to those vents that you can so we get better airflow through the system. Now, once you've got the freezer all straightened out, those ports are nice and open, that'll make this run more efficiently down here. Now, the difficulty when we have a lot of space in the icebox area here is that air doesn't hold any temperature. So the cold air falls out, the warm air goes in. So we want to kind of fool that, and when you have big spaces like this between shopping times, get some water bottles like this sitting around. You can put them in here. And the more the merrier. We don't have to worry about the stuff we have at the freezer, but we're trying to get more mass in here to keep that temperature. Now you also may have a refrigerator equipped with an energy saving switch, and that's designed to keep the moisture down along your gasket area here during the summertime. You don't need to have that on during the fall, and winter, and spring. So you turn that off and reactivate it then in the summertime. Now also in the box here, to keep the food nice and fresh, you want to see between 36 and 40 degrees. Now, a lot of times people just put the groceries in and they don't even think about the temperature, and that can cost you a lot of money because they're running and running and running. I've seen refrigerators down to 32 degrees in here. So you need to get yourself a thermometer, one that's got a range of from 0 up to 120 and down below. And that way you can test the temperature in here as well as use it around your house to see what your household temperatures are like. Now, that was the easy tune-up. Now, if you really want to go to the next level, you need to get in there and clean out your cooling equipment. In order to do that, we have to pull the unit away from the wall. Now, in some homes, you may have linoleum carpeting in the kitchen. You got to be very careful when you pull these units out because you might gouge the floor. You just kind of rock it back and forth. A lot of the units have wheels on them, and they're easy enough to pull out. If you got a bad back or, worried about this, you might want to hire a professional to do it, or just one of your buddies, okay? And now once you got the unit pulled out, you're going to find that the cooling apparatus that's at the bottom of the refrigerator is covered by this cardboard protective covering here. We need to take a look in there and see how dirty it is. But first thing we want to do is, of course, unplug it. It's not good to be sticking hands into appliances where the power is still on. And you'll also notice we have a water line coming in here. This is because this is an automatic ice maker in this freezer. Generally, when they install these, they give you enough copper pipe to pull it out like this. In fact, they had to do that in order to install it in the first place. So, but watch your connections, make sure you're not pulling any water loose when you're doing this. Generally, there's some simple screws around the perimeter here that hold the cardboard deflector on. They're pretty easy to get out of there, generally speaking. And here we have the cooling apparatus. Now, it's basically consisting of a compressor here, which of course compresses the freon and gives you the coldness that you want. Has a fan in here which helps you dissipate the heat off the compressor, and it has an evaporative tray right here. This is for the frost-free apparatus that comes in most refrigerators. There's actually a heater that goes on and the interior moisture melts down and collects in this tray. The warm air coming off the compressor and the fan help evaporate that moisture so you don't see it on your floor. If you do see it on your floor, it may be that the tray has gotten a leak or mispositioned or something like that. Now, it's pretty essential to keep all this equipment nice and clean. This is a new refrigerator, so it hasn't gone through 15 years of dust and what have you. And this is pretty much the way you want them to look. Looking like this, they're going to run most efficiently for you. And once you get it this clean, you pretty well keep it that clean. It won't be that you do this a lot, depending, of course, on your living situation, but this is kind of how you want it to look for maximum efficiency. Now that we got the refrigerator put back together in its place, there's one more piece of the cooling apparatus I want to draw your attention to, and it's called the coil. And it looks like the radiator in your car. It's got a coil of copper through it and fins on it. It helps dissipate the heat from the heat that's collected from the interior here and by the compressor and via the fan. But because it's kind of shaped like a radiator and they kind of scrunch it into a V, it sort of looks like this underneath the unit. That needs to be cleaned too. If you've got pets, especially if you have pets, you get a lot of fur and hair pulled into that unit, but the coil will catch it all first before the compressor and the fan does. So luckily we have a tool that's made for this very process here. It's called the coil brush. You get this at hardware stores around town. It's tapered here so that as we're working the brush into the coil, it'll grab all those little dust bunnies and what have you out of there. And you might want to have a vacuum cleaner nearby to pull those out of there. This is also a really good tool to use on your car when the radiator. You can get down in there and get the bugs off in the summertime, so it's a nice tool to have around. Now, once this is all cleaned and to your satisfaction, the idea is to kind of keep it clean. Of course, one of the biggest factors in how long your refrigerator runs is, of course, due to how often you open the door. So if you think about what you can get before you open the door, you also save a lot more energy. Now, all these details we discussed today will help you maintain a more efficient refrigerator, which will help you save money and save energy. And that's where we're at Conservation Tips here at Water and Light. Dave Mars. I'll see you next time.